Hello, fans. Welcome back to the XFL Fan Zone. And we just had, I think, what was our best week of XFL football. I think we had the most competitive games this weekend. Three and a half of the four were real good. Only the second half of the Guardians Dallas Renegades game uh, was a bit of a blowout. But other than that, we had three and a half competitive games this week. Let's start with headline number one of the weekend is that the Houston Roughnecks are now 5-0. They win a big game and a nice comeback from behind victory over their division rival, the Seattle Dragons. B.J. Daniels looked good this game. He wasn't stellar, but the Seattle Dragons got a few turnovers early in the game, made it very interesting. But the Roughnecks are now 5-0, and with them being 5-0, they have a three-game lead in the West Division with five to play. Safe to say they will be in the playoffs, most likely having home field advantage throughout the 2-week period of the playoffs. Number two, the LA Wildcats. As good as that Roughneck come from behind victory was, the LA Wildcats probably had the come from behind victory of the year so far. In fact, the Vipers and Wildcats was probably the game of the year if you love offense. 75 points altogether. They crushed the over and under by 42 and a half. 780 yards total offense. 6 turnovers on both teams, 3 for each team. It was a tale of two halves. LA turned the ball over in the first half with 3 turnovers. Tampa Bay made them pay every time for them. They jumped out to a 17-0 lead. But in the second half, Tampa Bay turned the ball over 3 times, and LA made them pay for it 3 times, including the final one to Jack Tocco in the end zone to seal the deal for the LA Wildcats. Now, 2 of those Viper turnovers did not seem to be Taylor Cornelius' fault. It seems like his receivers did not read the play well, or from what it looked like to me anyway. But both quarterbacks had pretty good games. Josh Johnson was 20 of 36 for 288 yards, 4 touchdown passes, 1 interception, 107.2 quarterback rating. Taylor Cornelius, 22 of 34, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, but those 2 interceptions were a killer, especially the one in the end zone in the end. One which was hit as he released it. They ruled a fumble. It was a fumble 6. And those were the difference in the games. The turnovers were the difference in the first half. The turnovers were the difference in the second half. But man, what a game. If you love offense, this was the game for you. It wasn't a Big 12 ridiculous shootout game, but this game had a little bit of everything. It was very exciting, and you probably had the best come from behind victory of the year by the Wildcats. Unfortunately, only 12,000 people, 122 I think, showed up at the Dignity Health Park in LA. The attendance in LA continues to be disappointing, but I pretty much knew that going in. LA is very much a big event town. They are. I mean, even when they're in big games, if it's not a big event, they don't go to games. And we've seen this for the Rams, Raiders, Trojans, Bruins, and not even the Seneca Chargers. Hopefully, if LA remains in the playoff hunt, the fans will come out and do a better job. 3. DC defends the home front. DC is a different team at home. They win their game 15-6 over the first place Battlehawks. Well, was the first place Battlehawks. We have a 3-way tie now for first place between DC, St. Louis, and New York. DC owns the tiebreaker over both teams, so technically they have first place. St. Louis has beat New York, so they technically have second place, with New York out looking on the outside, looking in. Cardell Jones was pulled from this game after one drive. He threw one bad interception. He was pulled for Terry Jackson, who didn't really have a good game. Not a 14 yards, I think, only for 39 yards. This was a defensive struggle. The DC defense finally showed up. They sacked Jordan Tamu for 4 sacks, hit him many times, pressured him all day. Both teams ran the ball real well over 100 yards, but for the Battlehawks, it was penalties all day and getting themselves in 3rd and longs and not being able to convert it. St. Louis also missed a field goal. Both teams actually both missed a field goal. Rossellini missed his first one for St. Louis on a very high snap. Ended up hurting him. So we have a 3-way tie now for first place. Fourth headline: New York Guardians finally win a road game and look good doing it. As we're getting breaking news, also, Hal Mumm is out as the offensive coordinator in Dallas. Jeff Targinski takes over. Now, I'm not sure if that has to do with his broken leg, his leg injury, or he's underperforming. And in his defense, listen, Dallas is a different team when Landry Jones is in that lab. I know he's had the interception problem, but let's be realistic. When Landry Jones in that offense, that team moves that ball, and when they can move that ball, that running game opens up. And we've seen it now. Phil Nelson, listen, I like the guy. 28-49, only 210 yards again. This is very similar to his first week outing. He's a played not to lose quarterback. He does a lot of things okay, but he's not going to win you games. Luis Perez was 16-30, 229 yards in offense. Of course, he had the long touchdown pass to Colby Pearson for 80 yards. New York Doe ran the ball for well over 100 yards again. And that offensive line for the Guardians is doing the job. When that offensive line can get that running game going, Luis Perez looks like a quiet, confident guy the Guardians have needed in that offense. Still, I don't see Tanner Gentry had even a single yard reception for the Guardians since coming back from his injury. I wonder what's the status on him. But the big thing for New York was the defense. They had 3 interceptions, one by Rex Muller for a pick six touchdown. Beautiful job too by him. And trust me, we had another interception by defensive lineman. I'm trying to remember who he was. Johnson, big man Johnson. That was fun to watch him pick up a pass running. But turnovers led to points both times for the Guardians. That is the difference in the game. New York is now 3-2. Things are looking bleak for New York. Just a couple of weeks ago, but now they're back in it. They're 3-2, three-way tie for first. And like I said, all these teams got to play each other. Weeks 8, 9, and 10 are all division games. So the West will play the West. The East will play the East the way it should be. To give New York a chance to come back and avenge the losses to St. Louis and D.C. Now, the fifth headline of the week was that terrible ending in that Houston-Seattle game. Listen, I know it's only 2 seconds, but those 2 seconds could have made a difference. People say, well, Seattle wouldn't have scored. That's speculation. Or Houston would have stopped him. Again, that's speculation. First of all, bad job by P.J. Walker not realizing how much time was left in the clock and not listening to his coach to heave it out of bounds. But he got away with it. An even worse job by the Seattle Dragons and Coach Jim Zorn for not seeing there were 2 seconds left. That whole bench, only 3 players picked up on it, and for whatever reason, Jim Zorn never fought it. I like Jim Zorn, but he's really more and more like Joe Biden. He seems to be a little slow and a little lost. Now, Seattle lost their offensive coordinator, Rick Riley, for the year, but we're 6 weeks now. I don't think Jim Zorn should be calling the offensive plays for Seattle. He just looks real slow. He seems to impede the offense in B.J. Daniels. This is my take. And, of course, a terrible job on the referees. No one on the field picked up on it. And then the terrible, lame-ass excuse by the head of officiation, who was reassigned after that ridiculous. And good job by the XFL for realizing what a terrible job it was. They addressed it right away. They didn't take a whole day. They addressed it before the ending of the second game. They said, yep, we screwed up. This guy's been reassigned. We apologize. What did fans want in this league? They wanted better officiating. Well, for the most part, this game was very well officiated, except for the last play. But they jumped on it. The XFL did a good job. They're making a statement. That should send shockwaves to the rest of the officials. Stay on your game. Do not take nothing for granted. And the same should go for Jim Zorn. Terrible job on his part. And as a bonus, I wasn't really impressed with the attendance this week. I think we drew about almost 65,000. That is by far the lowest of the year so far. I'm down to see how the ratings were. I am not a big fan of this 9 p.m. Sunday night game. This is not the NFL. We shouldn't be trying to be the NFL. I'm hoping this is a one-game experiment for ratings. I know the game was on the West Coast. It's 6 p.m. over there. But next week, they go back to 7 p.m. on the East Coast, which means it's 4 p.m. on the West Coast. That's what they should be doing. Folks, let me know what you think, what you thought about this week. We'll talk to you later. And just think, we're only 5 days away from XFL action. I will be there this Saturday against the big showdown in the Big Apple, the Roughnecks and the Guardians. I'm hoping we can draw 20,000 for this game. If you look at history of spring football, this is when the football fans come out. You go look at the New Jersey Generals attendance, the New Jersey Knights, or even the old pathetic New Jersey Hitmen of the XFL. When the New York fans don't look like they had a team, they always came out and supported these teams. When they lose, they disappear. So we'll see how they do. I'm also going to see one of the representatives for the Guardians asked me to come see them before the game. They asked me what my intake on the team in the league is. That should be interesting. I will give you a video on that as well. Fans, will talk to you later.